I came home early from a business trip to find my wife's things gone. She texted, "I'm moving in with someone more successful," but I didn't reply, just called my lawyer. 48 hours later, she realized she left with nothing, and my phone was flooded with desperate calls. I remember the exact moment when the world felt like it was tilting on its axis. It wasn't the typical cliched moment of a phone call or a letter. No, it was something far more visceral. I was in San Francisco, the city of fog and innovation, where I had just pitched our latest app to a room full of investors. Their eyes were on me, but my mind was already back home, in Seattle, where Emily awaited. I had this sudden urge to surprise her, to break from my usual routine of meticulous planning. So, I wrapped up the meeting, caught an earlier flight, and found myself driving through our quiet neighborhood, the one where every house looked like a postcard from a dream. As I approached our home, the lights were on, casting a warm glow through the windows. I could hear music, not the soft jazz we usually played, but something more, urgent, pulsating. My heart matched its rhythm as I walked up the path, each step feeling heavier than the last. The door was slightly ajar, which was odd. Emily was always so particular about locking up even when she was home. I pushed it open, the sound of the hinges creaking like a warning. Inside, the scene that greeted me was not what I expected. The living room was a mess, not from neglect, but from a different kind of chaos. Clothes were strewn about, some of which I didn't recognize. The air was thick with the scent of something sweet, almost cloying. And then, there was the sound, the unmistakable sound of laughter mixed with something else, something that made my stomach churn. I moved silently, drawn towards the noise, towards the bedroom where the door was slightly ajar. My breath caught, in my throat as I approached, the laughter growing louder, more intimate. I could hear Emily's voice, but it was mingled with another, a voice I didn't recognize, deep and resonant. My hand trembled as I reached for the door, pushing it open just enough to see inside. There she was, Emily, with another man. Their bodies were intertwined in a way that left no room for misinterpretation. The sight was like a knife twisting in my gut, the betrayal palpable in the air, thick with the scent of their intimacy. Backed away, the image seared into my mind. The house was eerily silent when I entered. The usual signs of Emily's presence, her art supplies scattered around, her favorite music playing, were absent. Instead, there was a void, an emptiness that felt like a physical weight. I noticed her favorite painting was missing from the living room wall, and her closet was half empty. A sinking feeling took hold as I checked my phone, finding a single, cold text from Emily. "I'm moving in with someone more successful." The words hit like a punch to the gut. I didn't respond. Instead, I called my lawyer, Mark, a longtime friend who had seen us through buying our home and setting up our wills. "Jake, what's going on?" he asked, concern lacing his voice. "Mark, it's Emily," I managed to say, my voice breaking. She's with someone else. She left me." There was a pause on the other end, then Mark's voice came through, steady and calm. "Jake, I'm sorry to hear that. First, take a deep breath," Mark advised. "Document everything. Keep a record of all communications and do not engage with Emily directly." His words were a lifeline in the storm of my emotions. Over the next 2 days, I followed his advice meticulously. I cataloged the missing items, noting the date and time of her text, and kept screenshots of every message. The house felt like a shell without Emily's vibrant energy, her laughter, her art. It was as if the very walls were mourning her absence. Then, the calls started. At first, they were tentative, almost apologetic. "Jake, I didn't think this through," she said, her voice breaking through the silence of the house. But I didn't pick up. I let the calls go to voicemail, each one more desperate than the last. By the third day, her tone had shifted from regret to panic. "Jake, please, I need to talk to you. I've made a huge mistake." The twist came when I received a call from Mark. "Jake, you won't believe this. Emily tried to access your joint bank accounts, but she forgot we had them set up so only you can withdraw funds. She's left with nothing." The news hit me like a cold wave. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated, to revel in the poetic justice of her financial predicament. But another part, the part that still loved her, ached at the thought of her desperation. Sat in the quiet of our once shared home, the weight of her absence heavy in the air. I replayed her voicemails, each one a plea, a cry for help. Her voice, once so comforting, now sounded like a distant echo of the woman I thought I knew. I knew I had to respond, not out of anger or spite, but from a place of closure. I dialed her number, my heart pounding in my chest. When she picked up, her voice was a whisper. "Jake?" "Emily," I said, my voice steady. "I've heard your messages. I'm sorry it's come to this." There was a pause, filled with the static of our broken connection. "I'm not going to leave you stranded." I sat in my office, staring at the phone, listening to Emily's latest voicemail. Her voice was frantic. "Jake, I'm at a motel. I have nowhere to go. Please, we need to talk." I could hear the desperation, the realization of her situation sinking in. I remembered our last conversation before I left for San Francisco. She had been unusually quiet, her eyes distant. "Are you okay?" I had asked, and she had just nodded, a forced smile on her lips. Now, I understood that nod was her goodbye. Mark called again. "Jake, she's trying to reach out to your friends, your family. She's desperate. What do you want to do?" I took a deep breath, the weight of the situation pressing down on me. "I'll call her back," I said, my voice firm, but not without a trace of the turmoil inside. Dialing her number, my hand shook slightly. When she answered, her voice was a mix of relief and fear. "Jake, thank you for calling back. Emily, what's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral, despite the storm of emotion swirling within me. I made a mistake, Jake. A huge mistake, she confessed, her voice breaking. I thought I wanted something different, someone different, but now I'm alone. He left me with nothing. The words stung, but they also echoed with a truth I couldn't ignore. "Emily, why did you do it? Why leave like that?" There was a pause, a silence filled with the weight of our shared history. I was confused, Jake. I thought I needed more, something else. But I was wrong. I realize now what I had with you it was real. I leaned back in my chair, the leather creaking under me. And now? What do you expect from me? "I don't know," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I need someone to talk to. I'm scared, Jake. I've burned all my bridges." The vulnerability in her voice, the raw honesty, it was disarming. Despite everything, I picked up the phone, not to call Emily, but to call Mark back. "Mark, let's proceed with the legal separation. She made her choice, and now she has to live with it." My voice was steady, but inside a storm of emotions raged. As I hung up, another call came through. It was Emily. This time, I answered. "Jake, please, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Can we talk?" Her voice was a mix of fear and hope. I paused, the weight of our 10 years together pressing down on me. "Emily, you left for a fantasy. I hope it was worth it," I said, my voice devoid of the anger I had expected to feel. I said, my voice devoid of the anger I expected to feel. Instead, there was just a profound sadness. The silence on the other end was heavy, filled with the unspoken words of our shared past. "Jake, I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. I was chasing something that wasn't real." I could hear the regret, the realization in her voice. It was like she was speaking from a place of deep sorrow, a place I knew all too well. "Emily, you didn't just leave me. You left our life together, our home, our dreams, everything we built." "I know, Jake," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I've been staying at a motel, alone, thinking about us, about how I threw away something precious for a fleeting thrill." Her words painted a vivid picture of her current state, alone in a sterile, impersonal room, the reality of her choices sinking in. And now? What do you want from me, Emily? I don't know, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I just need to see you, to explain, to maybe find a way to fix this. The request hung in the air, a plea for redemption or perhaps just closure. I leaned back, the leather of my chair creaking under the weight of my thoughts. I'm not sure what there is to fix, Emily. You've made your bed, and now you're lying in it, alone. Her breath hitched, a sound of despair as she realized the consequences of her actions. In the weeks that followed, Emily's calls dwindled. She had moved back in with her parents, her dreams of a more successful life shattered. I, on the other hand, found a new rhythm in solitude, focusing on my work with a clarity I hadn't known before. One evening, as I sat in our, now my, living room, I received a text from Emily. I'm sorry for everything, Jake. I hope you find happiness. It was a simple message, but it carried the weight of our shared history. I didn't reply immediately. Instead, I looked around at the home we had built together, now a testament to my resilience. Success, I realized, wasn't about wealth or status. It was about integrity, about standing firm when the world around you crumbles. I texted back, "Thank you, Emily. I hope you find what you're looking for too." And with that, I turned off the lights, leaving the past behind, ready to face whatever came next with a newfound understanding of what truly mattered. What lessons will Jake carry into his future? The lessons I carry into my future are etched deeply into my soul. First, there's the lesson of self-worth. I've learned that my value isn't defined by another's perception or by material success, but by the integrity with which I live my life. Emily's departure, her chase for something she thought was more, taught me that true success is internal, not external. Then, there's the lesson of resilience. The home we built together, now a silent witness to my solitude, has become a symbol of my ability to endure. It's not just about surviving the storm, but also about rebuilding after it. I've learned to appreciate the quiet, to find peace in the solitude, and to rebuild my life with a foundation stronger than before. Forgiveness is another lesson, not for Emily, but for myself. Forgiving myself for not seeing the signs, for not being enough in her eyes, and for the pain I caused myself. It's about letting go of the anger and the hurt, not for her, but to free myself from the chains. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.